Hey, I'm excited to talk to you about a really useful structure that people use a lot that comes up in the current chapter. And before we do, a reminder is needed. Do you remember past participles? These are verb forms that go after auxiliary have. For example, they have hired a student. Now, in this case, hire is a regular verb. So the form that fits after an auxiliary have looks the same as a past tense verb. But if you look beyond regular verbs and look at irregular verbs, for example, she had spoken those words. Speak is irregular, and this is one of the irregular verbs for which the form that fits after auxiliary have is not the same as the simple past tense form. So examples such as had spoken show that there is a particular form distinct from past tense that fits after an auxiliary have verb. And this form that fits after have is defined as a past participle. Okay, so far this has been just chapter 3 review. Now, past participles come up in a new context in the work that we are doing currently. Specifically, it turns out that they don't have to go just after auxiliary have. Another place where past participles can live is after an auxiliary be. A student was hired. So here we have was an auxiliary verb and hired after it, or those words were spoken. Where is an auxiliary be verb and it's got the past participle spoken after it. These two together, an auxiliary be verb with a past participle on it, is a passive structure. This is the way it's defined. There are some other structural details that we will have to get to later. I really want to be clear about this. The passive is really only what I just said. There is a be verb, there's a past participle on it. That's it. So a passive is not defined as anything that's unclear, that you don't like the way somebody's writing. Oh, that's passive. Well, that's not what the technical term passive means. Also, while it is possible to use passive voice to not say who's responsible for an action, it's not the case that anytime you manage to not specify you did it, that's a passive. That's just not the way passive is defined. And the third point, this is really important because in everyday language use, we have the word pair passive and active. They go together, they're opposites. But when we're using passive in this technical sense, it's not the opposite of active in that sense. So just because somebody's writing in a boring way, it's not very dynamic or interesting, that does not make it passive. Passive is that specific structure, a be verb with a past participle on it. And in fact, we could say something like, let's say, the helicopter was destroyed in the fire. There is a passive. I think it's not boring. That sounds like kind of a somewhat exciting thing to say. So it's passives don't have anything to do with boring necessarily. I very often hear that people are told you should avoid passives, especially in your writing. I think that's relatively bad advice. And I can kind of see where people are coming from when they give that advice. Because what if I've done something wrong? If I say mistakes were made, well, that's a problem. It's unclear. It could be worse unclear. Maybe I'm actually avoiding taking responsibility for the bad thing I did. But really, I think cases like mistakes were made for this bad purpose of getting away with doing something wrong. I think those uses of passives are pretty rare. People really use passives a lot, and usually they are used for a good purpose, which we will get to later.